What?
Missed
We're
your
recording.
missed his intro. He's recording.
Is it recording? I don't see. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Here's the list. I'm going to call on your name. Karen Snyder.
Okay, Karen Snyder. I live in Uptown Chicago. And I guess the question I thought of is where is profound spirituality occurring in society today? This is the role of religion in social change. And I think it's happening in some churches and it's happening in many movements at various points, you know, whether it's the Black Lives Movement or climate change or whatever. And
Well, this is
so
a
I'm just
basic
looking
question.
for it.
Linda Cox. Are you there, Linda?
We are in Davidson, North Carolina. And the question I'm struggling with is trying to make religion palpable to our children.
All right, John Cox.
Asking me.
Yes.
Mhm.
I came in and I haven't thought of a thought yet, so come back to me, Gene.
All right. Alan Gamble.
Alan Gamble, I'm in Tacoma, Washington. The thing behind me is actually in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's better than my backyard. My question really is just, you know, what is it? What is religion?
Okay. Jim Hollister.
Appreciate the question. I've been thinking more in terms of climate change in specific, but I guess I'll stay on that topic. Some of my friends have come to the conclusion that the climate is already too far gone to ever be repaired. So they are post-doom Christians or post-doom religious folks. And others of us are maybe more optimistic, which might not be helpful. I don't know. So which, depending on what our conclusion is, or how do we know what our prescription is for how to serve and build community?
All right. T.W. Lewis. I guess he's not here. Ann Statham.
And Statham. Can you see me? I'm still seeing someone else on the screen. Can everyone see me? I'm here with my husband,
Yes.
Michael
Yes.
Zupan.
Yeah, can see you.
And I guess we're near Evansville, Indiana, which is on the border between Indiana and Kentucky, also near the border to Illinois. It's a tri-state area, Southern Illinois, downstate for the people in Chicago. Look like Karen might love one of the, what do they call those in Chicago?
Near Cincinnati.
Forests. What?
Forest Preserve.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess, and we actually live in Mount Vernon, which is a little town on the west of Evansville. I grew up in Evansville and then came back here to live to help take care of my mom. So I guess my question is, the point, I'm just trying to figure out, we love to read the stuff that Gene sends. We read it. A lot of times we read it on Sunday. I guess it's kind of our spiritual practice. But how to get started. I'm just starting to, I read the stuff about how to get a group started and the great things that are happening with your group, and just I'm just at the point of trying to find people that might be interested in how to get that started.
How to get that started. All right. Well, John Statham's, Ann Statham's husband. I just don't have your name here.
Michael Zupan. Michael Zupan is his name?
That's me.
That's you. What's your question, Michael?
Well, this is my first Zoom call, and I was kind of going to listen. I thought, hear what people had to say and listen to the questions that other people talked about.
All right. Well, that's, I guess that's past.
I read the bulletin and the things that you send,
People do
and
not. They like climate change.
sometimes I have to reread many times, and I still don't really understand what it is I'm reading. So I think I've got a lot of noise
David,
going on in my head, especially about religion. And I'm quite content to listen to what's being said, and also it's very nice to be able to see the author of the publication I've been reading over the years.
okay. I gotta move.
And,
David Walsh.
Yeah, he's the one.
David Walsh here.
He's the one.
I'm saying.
Yes, to get to some.
Jim Weagle. No. Sharon Texler.
Legal, Towson, Arizona. We're the first Greyhound bus stop on the way from Phoenix towards Los Angeles, surrounded by huge warehouses of every kind. Within walking distance is a big Amazon fulfillment center, etc. Question. What accounts for the seeming vitality of and passion of what I would call fundamentalist religions, whether that's evangelical Christianity, evangelical Buddhism, evangelical Islam, evangelical Hinduism. It seemed to me in the midst of current realities that should have all passed away, and yet it seems to be live and growing. I'm complete.
And your question is about that whole.
That lasting vitality.
Okay. Sharon Texley. Randy Blackfield. Cynthia Vance.
Hmm.
I don't see him.
Barrett Griffith.
Barrett. I live in Northfield, Minnesota, and am currently in Minneapolis with Louis Pierce and Joyce Bonifield Pierce. My question is, how do we get beyond divisiveness and a sense of ownership of a particular point of view of our, relationship to the mystery? Because it seems to me that most of what happens in the religious arena is people hanging tightly onto a point of view in relationship to that. And just how do we, quit talking?
Yeah. Paul Noah.
Yes, I'm also in Minneapolis. And my question really is it possible for humans to actually not be religious? Whether that's something that, whether religion is always part of us, or is it possible not to be?
All right. Joyce Bonifield Pierce.
Hi. Yes, we're in Minneapolis, which is right now, it seems to be ground zero for pretty much of at least our country. And my question is, how can religion help us through the denial, the resistance, the hatred, all that divides us, especially racially, but in other ways too? How can we use our religious practice to get to any higher level, or maybe that seventh level in being there, not just knowing about it, not just knowing it, but acting from there? So I call that higher ground. But my question is, how can religion help us get there?
All right. Lewis Pierce.
Yes, Louis Pierce. I'm also in Minneapolis, and I would say that as a maxillofacial specialist that's practiced for 56 years, and I'm 83 years old, and still have a fire in my belly, like the fundamentalists like Tim Weigel brings up. But and I went through 2 academies, and I've lived and worked in 25 countries. And the question is we still spend part of our life in Ghana, in a village in West Africa, and we are educating. We are educating about 230 kids, and I still have a clinic there. So the question is, how do we stay on the 7th level as long as we can?
Okay.
We're there. We've arrived.
Not there all the
Did
time.
that pretty
Trying to be
well.
there
I did
more.
that in 12 minutes instead of 10 my scheme here. But at any rate, let's pick some of those questions and work with them. You have a question right now?
Well, Jim Troxell's also online. Or he
Okay.
was.
Yeah. Okay. Where's
And John.
Jim, yes. What's your question?
Jim Troxell, Chicago. Does institutional religion need to pass away before a rebirth of spirituality can take place broadly? I'm complete.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Ooh.
So, which of these questions do you think we should start on first? But several answered the question, asked the question of what in the world religion is. That's probably a good place to begin. And of course, what we really mean is what is good religion, because there's out there 1,000 different definitions of religion and 1,000 different manifestations of good religion and of very bad religion. So when we ask the question, what is religion? We're really asking, what is religion in its good essence or as its purpose or reality and why it exists at all in human existence? So any one of you who has an answer to that question, you're welcome to speak next. We haven't heard from John Cock, and maybe it's a good place to begin. John, as I remember you have an answer to every question. So what is religion?
I'm 6,000 and some 200, 300 blogs daily. And that is very important to me. And hopefully that it helps others to sort of dig in for a minute or so about their journey. And I'm glad to be with this group. Thank you very much.
All right. We'll start off with a woman's perspective on that topic. Karen, would you help us out there? What is religion as you understand it?
Well, I find it difficult to express. You know, I like Joyce's calling it higher ground. That you're standing in the fullest perspective of what life is all about, and you're open to what is going on in life. And so there's rituals that you develop and to rehearse that understanding. That's what religion does.
All right. Anybody else?
Well, for me, this is Barrett, it's a group of people, it could be 2 or 3 or thousands, who share a point of view about the unknown and then begin to codify it. And if you don't believe it, then you're not part of it. I think it's dangerous for the most part.
Religion is dangerous, yeah.
It's different than spirituality or,
I was
yeah.
attempting to get us, I'll shift topics a little bit here. I was intended to get us started on the question, what is religion, with my little spin to start with. And especially the little story about the Buddhist teacher who said that religion does not, or meditation, which is a type of religious practice. The religious practice of meditation does not cause enlightenment, but makes us more accident prone. This is my definition of religion. Religion is a practice like sewage disposal. that people do on various ways. But this particular practice of social practice together has a purpose of making us more prone to the accident of enlightenment or profound consciousness, which is very important to human society, in my view. That might be our next question is, why is religion important to human beings? There are people out there who just would do away with religion, and most of the religion that people have, it would be good to do away with that particular religion because it's going backwards on this question of really being of use to human beings, being a problem for human beings. So why would good religion be of value to human beings is a question that I want to ask, and I think some of you were implicitly asking that question. Who would like to work with that?
I'll start. I back in the 90s, I attended some courses at Eastern Mennonite University in Virginia, and took a course called Religion ... Source of Conflict, Resource for Peace. And of course, they worked with the side primarily about how religion could be a resource for peace building, as they call it, and for building community, for building inclusive community, for want of a better word, as a practice for transforming conflicts. And that's one course I never forgot. I've been working with that ever since.
What is good religion that would help?
I think good religion is one that, first of all, doesn't exclude people based on, you don't believe our stuff, you can't be here, but really attempts to get into the perspective of other groups, other religions, other practices of other cultural groups, and tries to find the commonalities and the ways of working together to build future life together. That's what I think good religion is.
All right. No one else would like to work on that topic of what is good religion, the kind of religion you want to keep and human beings need to have.
I guess I think that we probably wouldn't have the social change movements that we've had without having religion. And different levels that you talked about, you have to move beyond intuition. And I graduated from college in 1970. So in the late 60s, I became involved in first the movement for racial equality, and then the peace movement and the women's movement and the environmental movement. And very early on, I realized that it was effective if people acted out of love and not out of anger and hatred. And it seems that you need to have that level of spiritual awareness to get to be able to act out of that instead of being angry about what people have done to you. So, or solely, I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't be angry, but if that's the only thing that's motivating you, it's just, it seems more destructive than constructive. And so I think we really rely on that level of awareness, which religion can give us to be able to act constructively.
To the level of awareness that religion can help us act constructively. All right. Anyone else want to work on that question of what is good religion and why do we need it?
Well, I think one of the things is if you don't have this ownership of your point of view, but have a broader view of how people receive and look at the mystery and not look at the mystery, understand the mysteriousness of all reality. And I think there's a possibility of a natural intelligence that you spoke of that would allow people to, if they opened up, to talk to each other, understand each other's point of view, understand what that point of view is pointing to, how that point of view then influences behavior. And that, you know, understanding people's various symbols of why those things are important to them and how it's okay to have different symbols that point you to the mystery and to what's not visible necessarily.
Yes,
Complete.
I see a lot behind you, what you're saying. My next question is thinking of sitting at the same table as Christians and Muslims and Buddhists and whatever other long-standing heritage might be represented at that table. Can we talk about the same things? Is there a profound reality that Buddhists are talking about that Christians can also be talking about with their language, and the Islamic practitioners might be talking about with their language, but that all of these languages are not the point. All these beliefs and practices are not the point. That these beliefs, these theologizings, these practices all have the point of helping us access this same thing, this same profound consciousness. What's your thinking about that interreligious truth of our time, you might say?
I'd like to speak to that, but I see James Weigel also had his hand up for a while. So maybe Jim, if you want to say something first.
Go ahead, Jim.
Well, yes, as a fellow practitioner of the Holy Order of Jims, I want to thank Jim for saying that.
We got to stick up for each other, man.
To me,
Amen, brother.
I guess we're in the majority here, aren't we? Well, okay, just two. All right. Anyway, excuse me. To me, there's two dimensions. One is, I think, to me, the process of religion, the process of making up stories and doing actions and so forth and so on is something we do as human beings. If we stay on this Zoom call long enough, you'll begin to see there's ways we're operating together, and almost intuitively we're going, oh, that's the right way to operate. This happens in organizations, it happens in countries. It's something that our species does. So to me, that would be the first thing. It's simply a phenomenon that happens as we live and operate in the world. And I guess in that sense, it's a little bit tied to Jean's little psalm about the moment. So for me, there's always a moment in which this moment, and if there's a bunch of people from different religious backgrounds sitting around a table, what they have in common is this moment.
All right. Back to Jim Hollister.
Anyway, so that would be one. Secondly, I think in that context, it's almost as though Islam and the Bridge Church down the street and the Tai Chi group that I belong to, these are like, they're different brands. It's like for fast food, there's Kentucky Fried Chicken, there's McDonald's, there's Chick-fil-A, and so forth. So and these are different brands, each of which is trying to maintain an identity and trying to produce the best product. And I'm using kind of economic language, but produce the best product that's available. And they're continually trying to attract customers. The fundamentalist church down the street is having a special drama today where the pastor acts out Peter at the foot of the cross. So I got invited to that. I had to turn it down, but I got invited. So they're always also trying to attract customers to
Let's
this.
move on to Jim Hollister's perspective on this.
So I always felt that religion was an explanation for why we have to die, although I don't think it gives much of an explanation. But it helps us get in touch with that mystery and awe. Another piece of it is the work of Karen Armstrong on compassion and the golden rule, which is through all the religions we can think of. And the third thing is a wonderful quote on the back of Thich Nhat Hanh's book, Living Buddha, Living Christ, where Thomas Merton says, he and I are we have more in common. We're more brothers than people in my own religion, many people, because we see things exactly the same way.
All right. Anyone else have a question about or a statement about good religion and why we need it? I'm going to then.
Can I just say one thing quickly? In the Twin Cities, there's been a group called SPIN, St. Paul Interfaith Network. That's gone on for about 20 years. And it started off with just Christians, Jewish, and Muslim people, and a few faith leaders of those traditions meeting once a month. And it built into, as time went on, more groups came, the Quakers came, the Native Americans came, the Buddhists came, people of a lot of different groups came. Finally, the Black church came. And the conversation kept getting richer and richer. And we would sit at tables of 8 and we would have just, table leaders to facilitators. And it was probably one of the best things I've ever been engaged in. And I think it created, who knows how that rippled out into the Twin Cities, but we did find a lot of common ground, and we saw a lot of like the insights being presented here, like we are different religions and we're talking about the same thing, and our rituals are different, but they're pointing to the same thing.
Yes, this is a very deep topic, is it not? I've been to 5, I think, Buddhist retreats and 3 almost workshops. And at any rate, I've done enough Buddhism to be a Buddhist if I wanted to be. I continue to be a Christian, but I could call myself a Buddhist Christian. And one of my good friends, Larry Ward, whom some of you know, he and I were Christians together for a long time, and he's now a Christian Buddhist, I would say. So we're all combining gifts that are given to us from a lot of different sources. Being a Muslim Christian is harder for me, but I have a certain understanding of God that's very similar to what some Muslims mean by God. So that conversation is also possible. But we're talking about something extraordinarily deep here, to live in this interreligious world where we have such a focus on profound consciousness that we can look at it from 17 different perspectives and be talking about the same thing. We've never lived in a moment like this before. This is remarkable. And if it were true that the best of Buddhism and the best of Islam and the best of Judaism, the best of Christianity could sit down at the same table and talk about how we do global warming, and somebody mentioned, that would be significant, would it not? And so maybe another question that we've all touched on is, if that were possible, if we have that kind of esprit de corps, you might say, among religious people across the planet, what is it that we bring to the general humanity that would not be brought without us? What is it about these depth probes into our profound consciousness that are absolutely essential to having a society that works?
Question, are you saying that until we have that esprit de corps or that commonality of understanding, we will be continually blocking ourselves in the crucial areas like climate change, etc.? Are you saying that's a necessary thing? I think, say a little bit more, if you would.
Well, I'm sure it would have emphasis on overcoming racism and getting beyond patriarchy, as well. I just use that illustration of does our fact of doing good religion in the world and helping other people get hold of their own depth being help? Is it an essential thing that needs to go on in the world that we have good religion and to bring us into real love that does solve the real problems?
I think it'd be helpful to have another word in a way, because there's so much negativity gets attached to the word religion, because you know, we have the world religions. It isn't like there's one take on this. And, you know, I think one thing that would help is if we began to really understand in a deep kind of way what is moving people. I mean, I have still a great deal of trouble with fundamentalists who have it all, you know, marked out and checked off. And what I don't know is what is the process? Like Jim, you talked about so many kinds of churches being around you. What is the process for deepening a dialogue or even a conversation among people? Because it does seem even now that people are retreating into a particular point of view, and it's hard to separate it from the political process.
But yes, we need to get this much clarity, I think, that religion is not a point of view.
Right.
Religion is a practice to get your consciousness oriented to the reality of your authentic humanness. Now there are thousands of points of view, but you don't, and some of them are helpful and some of them are not. So nothing wrong with points of view. But one of our problems with religion is we have this Baptist point of view here and this Methodist point of view here and this Buddhist point of view there. And they just clash. That's all they do is clash. In fact, they have war that they conduct with each other throughout history.
Right.
So point of view is an important thing to have, but it's not religion. Religion is something more subtle. It has to do with practices like meditation, like prayer, like going to a group meeting like this and talking about things. It's things you do that make it possible for you to be authentic or more authentic. So if in that basic direction, why is that crucial to have good religion like that?
Well, I would say, this is Louis Pierce, I would say that, and I also have some exceptions to the word religion. You can call it profound consciousness, you can call it about the greatest good, you can call it a soul force. But religion is really a linking, the root word means linking back. And what one's linking back to is they're linking back to their essence. So when I come into this universe, I'm thrown onto this planet with an essence in a body. And when I leave this universe, I will, and go to the other side, because I've been to the other side, I will also have a greater essence with a healed body. And when you go to the other side and return, all these issues of gender, masculine, feminine, racism, they're not even there. So like Campbell says, Joseph Campbell says, we are working on the masks of eternity. And so that's what we're working at. We're working on the masks of eternity. And religion can also be a defense against a religious experience. And I experienced that in some of the fundamentalists and evangelicals that we know, because it's so awesome and so off. They don't want to be off-field. It's scary.
Yes.
And I have patients that die and they say death is their goal. And so we carry in us the essence of the awe and the awesome one. And we are the awe-filled ones. And as we, and so the community of poverty, chastity, obedience, like Merton says, and like one of the models that we used in the ICA years ago, is really true. And that's what all of us live out of every day. So we are the thread of the essence. We are. And that's what makes this great group of people so wonderful. And we do it humbly.
Yes, I hear in what you're saying some clarity about the distinction between humility, gratitude, and passion, and authenticity, and other words like that, and religion.
Yes.
Religion is one thing. What religion is there at its best to help do is access something like humility, gratitude, and compassion, or love, or freedom. We have a lot of words for this profound consciousness. It's the essence of who we are is what we're talking about.
Yes.
This essence of who we are is someone with the courage to face the awe of the land of mystery and the truth of death as part of our life, and the drive to be alive, to face the truth of these things. If religion's not helping you face the truth of these things, is it religion at all?
Right.
Is Christian fundamentalism even religion at all? Is it just a crime against humanity of some sort that pretends to be religion? You have to figure out just how bad this is, in certain kinds of Islam, which is just seems to be out to establish their power somewhere in the world, without any sense of healing the world as a whole. Is religion at all? You see, we've got all these things out there that are calling themselves religion, but we've got to say, I think, a critique of religion, what religion is, these things are definitely not. So in that light, what else do I have to say? Yeah.
Gene, I kind of back up a little bit. It's frustrating. I think religion is about a relationship to reality. What is the ultimate reality? And it has, but the part of my issue is as soon as you start talking about it, you have a problem, because we have 1,000 different entry points and billions of experiences and ways of coming to that sense of awe. And as soon as we start to talk about it, we immediately create barriers. And I liked what you were saying about it's about essence, and it's about doing. It really, I feel like I went to a couple of Buddhist retreats, and one of the greatest discoveries for me was silence. I was stunned at how much we could accomplish by just being quiet and not trying to explain things, and not trying to, I don't know, justify or to make somebody else understand what I'm experiencing. I can experience it, and maybe, especially in terms of activism, it has to do with how you act out that relationship and your understanding of that relationship, and maybe less emphasis on trying to explain to everybody else how you got there, or why you did this, or what is your justification, because there isn't any justification in the end. And I'm complete.
Alan has brought into view something very important that hasn't been said well yet in our conversation, and that is that profound consciousness cannot be put to words, or any words you put to it is a perversion of it. And yet we we are attempting to describe it in words. When we talk about a land of mystery in which we live, we're describing something. We're not just believing in something or saying something cute. We want to say that we actually do live in a land of mystery, and we could talk for 10 bookfuls on what we mean by that. And we know we are talking about something real. Or we could go on and talk about the river of consciousness, or the mountain of care, or the land of tranquility, the sea of tranquility. All these are attempts to talk about something you can't talk about. How to really understand that paradox is key to this conversation. So I'm glad someone brought that into play. But it doesn't mean you should give up. It doesn't mean you should not attempt to describe these experiences. We do that in every religion. So the key then is how we can even talk about what describing means in this regard. We have to use poetry. We have to use koans. We have to use paradoxes. We have to use symbols like divine and human combined. Whatever it works to get through to the reality being communicated with each other, so that we can decide to live that reality in all of its manifestations. So with that, projecting the conversation a little clearer, maybe, what does it mean to do these foolish things called religion that don't get it said, but get it said somewhat, that might communicate to somebody who really wants to hear what you're saying? How do we talk about religion that's necessary for human existence?
Well, the only way, it seems as though that even Yahweh speaks through inflections, doesn't even speak directly to us. In 2008, my first wife of 50 years passed away, and I had two epiphanies. And one was through automatic writing, through the uncreated act of love. And I was in a little village doing oral surgery in a clinic. And like Alan says, it is through quiet. My epiphanies come when I'm not speaking, when my mind is just waking up in the morning. Dear Lewis, I am the messenger. This is an inflection. You're doing well on your journey. Keep your eye on the prize. Love Yahweh. It's an inflection. And I've had patients dying, or I'm going to do oral surgery on them. And I say, geez, you got a med list that's a mile long. Oh, doc, don't worry. I've been dead and come back. So everything is an inflection. I am not I. I am this one who we don't see. And that's wonderful. I mean, I don't want to see the mystery, because when one goes to the other side is music. Like Gene says, it's music, it's poetry. So
Dead and Come Back is a wonderful piece of poetry right there. And I'm glad
it
you
is.
brought that image in there, because that's, of course, central to Christianity and its thinking.
That is Christianity, where one becomes back selfless and with no fear.
We've so had that resurrection literalized in Christianity that we don't understand it anymore. That the disciples were literally had their ego killed at the cross.
Exactly.
The resurrection was finding life abundant beyond that death of ego. So it's this death to all of our delusions about life, and all of our running away from life, and all of our fear of life, and just coming back to realizing that realistic living, I've tried to find a secular term for it, is the best case scenario for your life, however dreadful that is, however awesome that is, however much courage it takes to even name it. Still, that's the way to go. And in that way to go is joy, is life, abundant. This is the Christian message. But we are facing generations of a kind of literalism of coming back from the dead in some fashion, and hope that we can. And we don't face the fact that we do die, that being alive as a human being is to be alive to a body that dies, period. That's but being alive to that body that's dying is the joyous way to go. This is our glorious good news. And that's for most people, the last good news they ever want to hear, right?
And when we do, the words we have are actually kind of puny, like God. It's religion. They're puny when you've been to the other side. What I like to listen to are the Tibetan monks with their AUM, and then their silence, which is new life. And the new life going through the wormhole to the other side is so powerful that this life is puny.
I'm glad you brought up the word God as puny, but we have a whole movement of Christian theologizing, you might say, that talks about the death of God.
Yeah.
And what that really means is an important question for this whole discussion, is that God is just a word, and it's a word that's being misused so grossly that the death of God is itself something that must happen to that use of the word God. So our Christian theologizing, which I'm still passionately committed, is asking the question, what use does the word of God now have? And my answer to living that problem is that the word God is just a devotional word, like the word sweetheart. Everybody, therefore, has some sweetheart that they worship, that they ground their life in, or many such worships. So if we're grounding our life in the use of the word God to mean a devotion to profound reality, the land of mystery, etc., then that's a good use of that word. That's a meaningful use of that word. It's the use of that word that Bultmann introduced to some of us many years ago, that will you say yes or God to that particular reality we're up against? And if we do, then we can use that word. And I think talking together, using Christian words is one thing to do, and being silent and doing practices of my wife sometimes just can't find words anymore. Anyway,
language.
Anyway, but you get the point of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Someone else on this topic.
Well, I feel like you know, you have all this language of the tradition you come out of, you know, and I've had actually some fun playing with some of that. And one that I use for myself is, you know, you've got this, you know, you die to your illusion about how life is, whatever it is. You go to, you know, you've got 3 days to get it together. You know, you die to your illusion, you die to what's happening that isn't working the way you want it to, whatever. And within 3 days, you can say, yes, I can, or yes, I can live fully with this, whatever this reality is that I have on my hands. And I mean, they're just, you know, stories from some of our common heritage years ago. I often think of the image of the walking on the water, and you know, wherever you're out over something you're not sure you're going to be able to handle, you can't lose your nerve. You know, you just have got to, if you have a picture, you're going from here to here and you say, oh, I can't do it. I'm, you know, this is overwhelming. I'm drowning in whatever it is. You know, it's again, you just say, yeah, I can do it. I can make it, whatever. And, but I think having been given those stories, you know.
Yeah. Well, we're coming to the end of the hour here. I need to wrap this up and let some of you go that want to go. If anybody wants to stay in a minute, I'll keep this meeting open and we can have talk with one another or further questioning or whatever we'd like to do with that time. But before say we're done in the hour, let me just mention that I have your emails and I have a MailChimp organization that uses your emails. I'd like permission to add your email to these MailChimp things. I have one that sends to you something called Realistic Living Pointers. That MailChimp goes out first of every month. And then I have another MailChimp account that goes out on the first of every month called Citizens Call, which has political commentary on it. So I'm going to put you on the Citizen Call list and the Realistic Living Pointers list. And if you don't want to be on there, you can unsubscribe, as they call it. And if you're already on there, and the email that I have for you is a new one that's not on there, and therefore you have two emails on there, you can unsubscribe one of the one you don't want on there anyway. So unless someone objects violently to having your name put on those two lists, I'm going to put it there and continue conversation with you in that regard. So anyway, anybody have an objection to my troubling you with getting your email off one of those lists?
I'm fine.
Also, you have my email list, so
Yes.
my email number. So anything you want to share with me, I'll be glad to have it. Or any questions you want to come up, or if you want to ask me which of my great books you should read first or next or something, I'll be glad to answer that question for you. Whatever, anything whatsoever. I want to simply encourage you to do that. I'm glad to share.
Yeah.
I have a quick question. Have you done this kind of before, or is this the first one? And next question, are you planning to do this again? Because I'd like to have us do it again if people want to.
Yes, as
I was going to ask that too. It would be good.
I'm conducting courses on Zoom now, and I'm planning to do one like this again on using the ICA calendar, maybe in July for sure, when I'm not doing something else. All my Saturdays are kind of occupied one way or another, so I'm having to find times to do it. But I do think I want to do this again. You convinced me this is a good process that brings together a different group of people than I'm with every day. And yes, answer the question.
Jean, you mentioned you're doing several courses. It'd be interesting. I'd be interested in getting the information. Are they online courses?
No, they're invitational Zoom courses. I have just published a book in April of last year called The Thinking Christian. First part of which is a philosophy of religion. The second part of which is theologizing Christianity, and the third part is practicing Christian practices. And each of those three parts have a Zoom course now.
Say the name of your book again, please.
The Thinking Christian.
Okay.
It's a 398-page book that costs too much. You can get it from Whiff and Stock, or you can get it from me for $28. So
okay.
Just send me a check for $28 and I'll send you one of them. Postage free. But anyway, that book is very useful for a Zoom course, and it's a 10-session course that you take. I'm doing part 2 and 3 right now in the next few days, starting it. And then in the fall, I'll be doing part 1 and 3. And then back next January, if I live that long, I'll be doing 1 and 2 again. Yeah. So I'm doing 2 of those at a time. It takes my whole Saturday to do 2-hour sessions on that book. But it's
Also,
the important thing I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
Also, John Cock has a lot of really good books that he's written, and the blog is, I've been on his blog for probably as long as it's been blogging along.
Yes, he has. I have most of them, I think.
So the Zoom sessions, Gene, are they listed in on your Realistic Living website?
No, I've decided not to list them as a public invitation, because
Okay.
they're really leadership training courses, leadership training schools, and I'm inviting people to, if they want to be a Christian leader or a religious leader of any sort,
Okay,
take one of these courses. So
okay,
I'll be opening up a whole new set of 10 or 12 people in the fall, and I'll invite any of you that want to do that to take one of those or to enroll in one of those. So I'm
okay.
handling it kind of person to person.
Yeah, yeah. Good.
Dean, would it be possible to get in on, I would like to be on in that religious practices, but are you trying to keep a group steady through all 3 sessions, or what is your thinking?
Zoom courses on Christian. Yeah, it's 10 sessions, 10 sessions, and you just come prepared for having read 10 or 15 pages of the book. And then we take certain sections of the book and talk about them thoroughly. That's all it is. 10
But
sessions.
are you open to people participating in one session, or do you have to commit to all
If
3?
these courses or training courses, you have to come for all 10 sessions. 10 Saturdays in a row for an hour. That's what they are, yeah. But this kind of thing, this one-time shop, I'm going to do some of these too.
Okay.
And I'll keep your emails in a little box here that will invite you to come again if you like.
Do you want to say something?
But we're beyond time that we can leave without penalty. Anytime you want to stay, you're welcome to. I'm going to leave it open here for continued conversation for another 15 minutes or so.
I would just like to thank you very much and thank everyone.
Yes.
I just feel like this has been fantastic, and I hope you'll do some more. I really do.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hope you'll.
Yeah.
Of course.
Agree.
Well, I enjoyed the conversation today. I'm not clear on my own thoughts about many of the subjects that were discussed, but I think that religion, see, that's, I have a problem with what really is religion.
We all do, don't we?
It's a paradox because
You're
so
in good
many
company.
so many things have happened in this world where we have, for example, 2 armies lined up against each other and both praying to God for success in their battle. You know, I mean, like, this is like nuts. This is like crazy, crazy way to live, I think. But we keep doing it over and over again.
Sin.
I kind of look at spirituality as an apprenticeship. Sorry.
It's an endemic disease of the human species to fall into delusion.
Well, I look at spirituality as a connection with a higher power. And I believe it's like an apprenticeship. As you live, then you get better at it.
Yeah, that's true.
And the life itself is the example of what is inside your consciousness, which is inside your heart. And that can be taken up by someone else. Lead by example. I think that's a good, my way to look at it. And I think it's good for me.
Yes,
I was
we're
really
always
pleased.
supposed to recruit as the next person. Every person is intimately involved with their own in authenticity. It's the courage to find it and live it is the key. And we can all do that. No final excuse. Reality is at work to bring us back home to reality.
Reality is bringing us back to reality. That's right.
I was gonna say,
I thought it was great.
okay, go ahead.
I thought it was great that you opened with a poem, and our tradition within our family is Saturday mornings we read poetry, and usually at breakfast time. And I thought that was a great way to open it. And personally, poetry for me has been an outlet or a way to get something straight in my mind about many different things, some good, some bad. You know, I mean, you can celebrate the sunrise, or you can straighten out your feelings about loss in your life, just through putting it down on paper. I wrote a poem about friendship, and I'd like to say it for all of us. You can start with a simple hello or a formal introduction by someone you know. It can take off in an instant, and you can't help but care. And there's no replacing that person who was suddenly there. A friendship can grow over the years as you both share your successes, your plans, and your fears. It's so nice to have a different view while analyzing the static you're trying to cut through. There's a balance in friendship. You give some and take some away, though there are times when you or your friend must carry the day. A friend is more than a shoulder to lean on or cry on. A friend is someone you love, trust, and can always rely on. This life is temporary and will always be, but a friend can dwell in your heart for eternity.
Yes, you should keep working on poems. Those are great.
Yeah, thank you.
And poetry is what religion has to use. I mean, the creation story is poem. The resurrection story is poem. Poetry is a essence of religious life.
Well, I've got one. We were talking most of the morning about full consciousness, and this one is by Juan Ramon Jimenez, who was a winner of poems in, I'm not sure when, but he's from Spain, and it's translated by Robert Bly, and it's called it's "You Are Carrying Me, Full Consciousness," like Mr. Statham. What's your first name? Michael. You are carrying me, full consciousness, God, that has desires all around the world. Here in this third sea, I almost hear your voice, the wind, filling entirely all movements, eternal colors, sea colors, and sea lights. Your voice is full of white fire. It's such a tremendous power that we forget. I haven't forgotten it. It's a tremendous energy that just is full of awe. Your voice is full of white fire here in the universe of water and the sky, marking out the roads with delight, engraving for me a blazing light, my firm orbit, a black body with a glowing diamond in its center. There you go.
Hmm.
I guess we should have a poetry session here.
We- we
Wow.
should.
Jean, you didn't mention who wrote the poem that you started with. My guess was that Jean Marshall might have written it.
Mhm.
Well, as you may know, the Joe Matthews and company and a bunch of people, some of whom have been here this morning, helped create big charts called The Other World.
Uh-huh.
Well, I've just pulled together all my own thinking about the land of mystery and put it into one little poem. That's what that is.
Yeah.
But would you be willing to share that by writing it in an email, just to share with us? I would really appreciate that.
Sure, and if you have a
And the friend poem too.
copy of The Thinking Christian, there's a copy in the first chapter of that book. It's in there, and the second chapter is the poem.
Is it the Thank You Christian or the Thinking?
The land,
Thinking Christian.
The Thinking.
the
Christian.
Thinking Christian. Yeah.
I like the friend poem too. That
That whole chapter is on the land of mystery and getting out of your mind into the land of mystery.
Yes, I'll send it along. I'll send it along.
Consciousness and what that is. And the third chapter is on the mountain of care and how that's thoughtful.
We should get
Thoughtfulness is
that down.
required and handle a mountain of care. And the fourth chapter of that book is on
Yeah,
the
I
sea of
wrote it down,
tranquility and what that means for interfaith religions across the world.
Great.
So you can see if you're interested in other world continuing conversation, then the part one of that book is on that topic.
Great. Fantastic.
Great group to be with. Yes, we wish
Thank
you
you.
all a happy Easter and all of its demythologizing that we have to do. But it is a time of renewal and setting new goals and new priorities. And we're thankful to be with this particular group of folks.
Yes, and my privilege
Oh,
too.
thank you.
All of you for coming. Before we leave, I want to ask John Cock to say a word or two about your books and say a word or two to us that we haven't heard from yet.
Well, about your books or about your blogging or.
I just blog every day. And and what else do you want me to say, Jane?
Do you have a website or any place that has all your books listed? I
How
know
do we
they're listed
connect with
on.
Yeah, just go to Amazon.com, John Cox, COCK.
And because he's no longer doing books, they publish his blog on there. But if you're interested in getting the blog, write to us and we'll be glad to put you on it. But it's,
Okay.
I don't guess our emails are on here, but it's John is John P. Cock. No, excuse me, JPC 2025 at outlook.com. But talk about, I call him my hermit in residence here, willing one thing, and he works on that blog daily. So that's his religious practice. So.
We're all indebted to John and to Epps and to George Walters and others who got those Matthews talks and sermons all put together in those two books. That was an extremely wonderful gift that you guys and gals gave to history.
Say thank you.
Thank you. What was he saying? What did you say?
John doesn't have his hearing aids in here.
I just have one ear.
Well, she can complain it to you. I was just giving you credit for something.
He was giving you what a wonderful job you did. So thank you.
Namaste. Namaste.
Okay.
Well, one thing I'd say that one thing I got, most of us maybe are on this blog. with the ICA people on Zachariah's book, 10 Lessons from a Post-Pandemic World or something like that.
It's finished.
Yeah.
One of the more profound phrases came out of the Cox group the other night. I mentioned it to Linda. Their son was there. And he said that what we're always working on is the human's insufficient interior resources. Thanks, John. I didn't recognize the young fella. He's so handsome. Well, so are you. But anyway, insufficient interior resources, and that's our job on this side.
Yeah.
And then when we leave, like when my first wife left, she says, "I'm going to leave you now." I said, "Well, why now? And where are you going?" And she said, "Well, I'm going the other side. I just saw my parents."
Wow.
So we use these on this side, but then we become unencumbered. And if we can become unencumbered on this side as much as possible, then we can do more. Like I say, I'm 83 and I'm still working like a tiger. And we go to Africa every year, and thanks to the ICA, and I think I flunked Academy with Gene Marshall. But I became a great human being.
That was the point of
Seed planter academy, right?
Gene was a seed planter.
Seed planter.
Get your butt off and get into the world. So here I am.
Thanks, Gene.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Gene.
Okay, bye, whoever wants to buy.
Take care.
Thank you.
See you, Cox. See you, Linda.
You bet.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you a lot for all your comments today. That was, this was very nice. Very nice
Thanks.
meeting. Cheers.
Thanks, Michael. I haven't met you. Where do you live, Michael?
Indiana.
Southern. No.
You live in Indiana.
We live in Point Township in southern Indiana, the city of Mount Vernon.
Okay.
Posey.
Are you near Cincinnati? Sort of?
No, we're on Cincinnati's on the eastern border of Indiana. We're on the west. We're where the Ohio rivers come together.
That's
Okay,
why it's called.
You're on the
So
west
the-
side.
Lower point of Indiana. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I know where you are. By
And,
Indiana,
We're right across.
by Illinois.
and,
Yeah, Evansville's right across from Henderson, Kentucky. I don't know if you're familiar with.
and how did
For-
you,
Highway 41 runs through Evansville from Chicago.
And Gene had a question for you.
and how did you come into our mailing list?
I don't know. I've been on it for a really long time. Yeah, and I don't remember how I used to teach at a university, and I was doing a lot of stuff on women's spirituality. And I know it was in that period when I was doing that, and I'm not sure exactly. I must have gotten a newsletter or something. I don't know. I don't remember. It's
Okay.
been a long time.
Yeah. Nice to meet you. Very nice.
Nice
Well,
to meet you.
You're a wonderful space cadet.
By the way, just for the record, I'm on the calendar to do a meeting with just a few people in late June, I believe it is, on higher ground, and trying to turn this, which is, you can see it's like 25 years of working on this. Just the same question of how can we turn this into a method or a practice that really assists and helps people move from sort of the normal everyday middle ground consciousness that most mature adults operate from, to stepping onto higher ground, and how to help people. You really have to move past your ego stuff. You have to get to that more unencumbered space.
Sounds like a good
So
plan.
anybody who is interested, I'm just looking to work with 3, 4, 5 people, not a big group. And it's really would be workshopping it to, I don't have the answer, I just have the question. And I do have a couple of grids that could be helpful jump off places. And this grid particularly here includes a lot of psychology people, And Asagioli, who is a colleague of Carl Jung, who talks about how we use our will, and many other people. And Kierkegaard is on here with his consciousness
Sounds great.
levels. So
Jim, before we close down here, let me ask you a question. Jim Weigel? Yeah. I have memories of you way on back to the Rumi work in the, what was it, the 60s or early 70s? Working on the social process triangles and working on the parts of the other world and all those kind of things.
70, 71, 72,
Yeah,
right in there.
right in there. At any rate, it's good to see you again. I just wanted you to know that I have always had a great place on my meditative council for the work you guys did in Rumi.
Back in the back in those days, Gene, I found a talk trying to describe how to understand social contradictions.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that was a long time ago, but one of the little sentences that stuck in my mind when I found that was you said, so for clues, you have to look to prophetic voices. And often these are artists or poets or somewhat crazy people. And I found myself wondering, what are the prophetic voices your ear is bending towards these days that might help us understand what we're really up against? But you don't have to answer that now, but I was wanting to mention that.
Yes, that's a good question. We could have a whole workshop on that. Yeah. What are the key voices of our time? I've had some very wonderful experiences with the Buddhist teacher, Eugene Cash. And I've had a wonderful time with the teachers that work with A.H. Almos. Either one of those names make any sense, but they're pushing edges of the ways of talking about spiritual matters.
So I wanted to tell Joyce that I was interested in what she was talking about. I see that she's left, but
Yeah, but I can take it, Ann.
okay.
Would you, could you send us your email or give us your email or?
Well, it's just A Statham
Okay,
at usi.edu.
ASI, huh?
usi.edu.
Okay, thanks, I got it.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
Sign out.
Well, I'm
Cheers.
going to close down now. Somebody has a objection.
Thank you very much. It was really
Thanks.
nice to meet you.
Thanks.
Will you make a link to the recording if we want to go back and review?
Yes, you remind me. I just cut that off, don't I?
It's always great to go to church, not as an institution though.